streamer who actually got killed while live. I don't really know the whole, I guess, situation surrounding this, but if there's one guy I trust to tell me that, it's Andrew Esquire. This shit sounded terrible. I saw some clips and it was like some dude who looked like a crackhead getting his absolute ass kicked by like 5 terrorists.
In France, streaming has turned lethal in the case of
Jesus.
Jean Portmanov, and we're going to get into that today on The Legal Mindset. We teach you to be your own judge. I'm Andrew Esquire, American attorney, and this is a Fast Facts version, which is a quick and dirty version of all the latest in legal news. If you like the Fast Facts, please make sure to leave a comment below, and if you appreciate this topic and appreciate my coverage, please let me know as well by liking the video. So this is something that, once again, we're getting into a serious topic, and I hate it to be kind of a trend, and it has been kind of lately, of there being very, very serious topics that I indeed have to cover. But this is one that jumped out to me as something that I should cover, because I had several people reach out to me that are familiar with kind of the streaming ecosystem and tell me, Andrew, this is like the Somali case, but in some ways worse, because it involves kind of the extremes of streaming and doing certain things that really never even happened there. And beyond that, it's something that really is circulating right now in a foreign language, mostly in French and in Francophone circles and media, but not in English. So as with the Somali case, which first started circulating in Korean media and really with Korean streamers, and then jumping over to mass media, jumping over to everybody, this is something I'm going to communicate to you guys because it's really important. And I think this is one of the instances where we can see cultures kind of sharing our information in order to create a better ecosystem and a better content ecosystem, and certainly to protect against both criminal activity and liability. So once again today, in this case, which we're talking about, which happens in France, I've got a couple warnings and disclaimers. Well, first of all, this is something that does involve a death. So once again, as always, when this happens,
did he die
in the
on
chat,
stream?
if you're in the live chat or in the comments as well.
Like,
we
was
just
there
try
a
to be
dead
respectful of
body
everybody
on
involved. We do not know all of the facts yet. I'm giving you an initial report, which if I find anything that's incorrect, if I make a misstatement, if I had information that was mistranslated, I will issue a correction. I will have an update, but I'm just getting that out there as soon as possible. And this also deals with content that indeed talks about humiliation, talks about, there's some, obviously some physical stuff going on in here. So if you're particularly sensitive to any of that, please tune out right now as we'll be discussing that. Of course, in a very respectful manner and in a professional manner, focusing on the greater policy and the law. So first of all, another disclaimer, I'm not a French lawyer. This is not French legal advice. I'm simply observing and looking at broader considerations, particularly also considerations for the platforms themselves, such as Kick and TikTok, which we're generally hosting as content. And I'm also not implying guilt.
I don't know how Kick allowed this shit on their platform. I honestly can't believe that. This does not do Kick any favors for allowing this type of shit on their content or on their platform. This is fucking disgusting.
On any party or platform involved. This is, of course, innocent until proven guilty. We don't have an assignment of liability yet. We just have what appears to levy some risks for certain people involved. Certainly the people involved are at risk of investigation, certainly at risk if things turn out a certain way of liability or criminality. We don't know yet. And so what that means is more investigation is necessary, both by law enforcement and the platforms themselves. And respect should at all times be given to the deceased and their family. And that's something that I think is important above all. So let's get to the stream.
Because the worst thing is that, like, Kick was doing so well, but then after the past week or two, we have a guy beating his dog on stream who's not banned. And then we have a guy who is beat up every day in front of his chat, to the point of he died in his sleep. And that's obviously not going to do Kick the platform any favors, because it was really reversing the bad PR. This is horrible. And to be honest, Kick really should have worked harder to, clean this shit the fuck up and get this shit off the fucking platform. I can't believe this shit happened on this platform without being banned. Like, that's fucking crazy.
Jean Portmanov. He was a streamer who had a very large audience on Kick and TikTok. I noticed before his Kick was taken down, which it was, because he indeed passed away on stream. So obviously they're not going to keep that information up on the platform. But he was quite popular, almost 200,000. I think it was at 193,000 followers on Kick. So very large following there on that platform as well as on TikTok. Now, he died at age 46. He died on stream on the 17th and 18th. An investigation
That's
has been
asthma in 2
opened by
years.
law enforcement, but they're still, according to latest reports, waiting on an autopsy, which will tell us a lot about how he died. It has been reported that he, by some sources, that he had a heart condition and was taking heart medication. So certainly if he died of cardiac arrest or something related to that, that would lead people to think, is there a causal chain? Did something cause him to have abnormal stress on his heart? Did he have abnormal pressure? Whatever. Are there any conditions that would have led to that or could have contributed to that? And in this case, there is a situation, because what we had 10 days before was 10 days of humiliation on stream by his friends. And I'm putting quote unquote friends because it is hotly debated from what I've seen in the Francophone circles and in media, whether these people are his true friends or whether they were streamers that were taking advantage of him. They go by the name of Naruto, Owen, Sensazandati.
They're going to show it. Okay, good.
And Safine. There were others.
I've seen one clip of this. It was fucking uncomfortable as shit.
Involved as well. There's streamers that popped on and involved in this as well. But those two are the ones majorly mentioned. And they've come out and issued statements about this. And they were submitting him to humiliation, some of which I'm going to give you the recap of on the Fast Facts. Of course, the live, I will play some of the videos so they'll see it. But it's been described as 10 days and nights of torture, extreme physical violence, and sleep deprivation and ingestion of toxic substances. Now, I'm just doing some clips here, but you see here, they've got him here. They've got boxing gloves on. They're punching him, kind of beating him up there. And over here, this is another video. And when you play it, this translation is lets out a mentally ill cry. This reactions and the reactions he often has are reactions you would see in somebody with mental illness. So when I saw him reacting, it was not a normal person reacting. It was definitely something that I think if you look deeply into it, buried into it, there was some mental illness or something going on there in his mentality when you see the reactions. They would shoot him with paintball guns.
Here's the clips if you need.
Allez, arrête, tu vas mourir. Arrête, Safine, arrête. Oui, oui. Arrête. Ah, il me prend, putain. Safine, arrête, tu vas mourir. Je l'ai. Arrête, tu vas mourir. Je t'enculé. Arrête, tu vas mourir. C'est bon, c'est bon. Arrêtez. Ouais, mais le tenez pas, c'est bon, le tenez pas. Allez-y, le tenez pas. Ça part de là. Pastèque, JP, pastèque. Prenez-moi là. Ah, mes couilles. Les couilles, JP. Voilà, les... Et non les gars, c'est l'heure de la douche. C'est l'heure. Non, un peu de spray qui pue, un peu de spray qui pue. Pourquoi il peut comme ça? Un peu de spray qui pue.
Jesus.
Il rigole.
Jesus.
C'est un Adidas. C'est pas Adidas. C'est un des...
Oh, 22.
Les règles sont les règles.
Jesus.
Arrête. Pas trop fort. 28. 29. 30. 35.
Désirez, monsieur, sinon je peux pas le
Putain, je sers pas. Oui.
Yeah, nah, hell nah, bro. The fuck are they doing to this guy, man?
Put him into kind of locks, and hold him down, etc.
Drive,
Punch him, choke him out.
To proof of the court
you
case?
see here,
Good.
there's a bunch of guys here kind of teaming up. They got his hand around his neck. They're kind of choking him out. They got him barred in there. This guy's just sitting there watching, right? This was this type of content, this humiliation content that they were doing for the past 10 days. See here, dude,
I genuinely feel that all these guys need to go to fucking jail, because if they don't, this is going to lead to other streamers doing the exact same shit that this guy did for quote unquote content. And it's like, what's the content? Beating a guy until he dies?
Covering him with some substance. I don't know whether they're making him eat it or not, but it's all over him.
What the fuck?
And one of the most disturbing things to me was both, these are two separate instances and calls, but one of them, this is his friend there, Naruto, who was calling him up and kind of hanging the sword of Damocles of his livelihood and his housing, kind of saying, hey, you've got to do this if you want to stay alive, if you want to have your livelihood or your dreams, you want to, stay inside, you've got to keep doing this. You can't give up. And kind of talking him into continuing this thing. And you can see here's the money tracker, right? So obviously he is making money on this. There's money to be made on this, right? but at what price? And in this right one, as you see, he's kind of dressed up here. He's got the stockings on, all this. They're humiliating him. He's actually on the phone with his mother. And his mother is begging him to please stop, please leave, please just quit. And, it's really a situation where he was put, between these friends and this lifestyle and, what he was doing on stream and these humiliation streams and his mom.
So this guy's poor, down on his luck, and so they decide to beat him to death and humiliate him on a stream in front of his entire audience. This is crazy, bro.
People care about him saying, hey, look, you should stop this. And it was
Kick France Twitter account was promoting their content. Yeah, no, that's such a bad look, man. I'm not even gonna fucking lie. That is such a bad look.
It's really heartbreaking to see that, because you can imagine if you're in that position that you're so desperate that you are having to go against your, mom and others who care about you. That's a very dark place to be. That's a very, very dark place to have to exist for Jean. So what happens here? What are the legal considerations now that he's passed away? And of course, after this, he did pass away on stream while on stream. And even the chat was kind of pointing out, hey, this guy died on stream. So what are the legal considerations here? First of all, a lot of people bring up Section 230. It happens in the comments in the live chat. Guys, this is not US, so obviously we're not applying Section 230. But even if Section 230 was applied, this does not protect any crime. So to the extent that a crime was committed here, that would not be any protection for let's say, a platform under Section 230. Further, waivers and exculpatory clauses, which I believe in the French legal system, once again, I'm not a French lawyer, just did some research. It appears that they also have exculpatory clauses, and it appears they do not protect against criminal behavior. So you can't protect against reckless endangerment, gross negligence, or intentional harm. That's similar to the American system.
Good.
If you sign up for bungee jumping and they were reckless and they saw the rope was, half cut, and they let you jump anyways and you die because the rope snaps, yeah, that's reckless, right? That's maybe even intentional, right? Yeah, that's not going to get them out of liability. So if you're doing something that is reckless, that is grossly negligent, it's not going to.
What's crazy to me is that Kick just banned Xena, who was another streamer who was walking around in the streets, laying down in the middle of traffic and frozen paintballing people's legs and causing bodily harm. And they permanently banned her almost immediately. So I don't understand why this type of content wouldn't have been limited. I don't understand this.
To get you out.
Because Kick's been doing a very good job of banning very problematic content, but I don't know why this one was not only not ignored, but promoted. I don't understand this.
It appears in many places in the world. And I believe, once again, I'm making the guess here, but from what I've seen, I believe France might be the same way. Also, it appears that France also has contributory negligence, which in French, fait de la victime. No, that is...
Maybe because it's Kick France and not Kick America? Maybe they have different teams? Because Xena got banned permanently immediately. No warning. Permanent ban immediate.
Contributory negligence is when you may have contributed towards that. I haven't reviewed all the video, and I don't know to what extent Jean may have come and added to it himself. Maybe he was doing something that contributed to the circumstances related to his death. Maybe he was not. That's something that come into play. Now, it does not completely block you from recovering damages in court or block you from liability or criminality, but it can be factored in. So if the party did something, it did something to cause their own problem, then it can be factored in. Now, it's so early. It's way too early. We do not have enough information to assign guilt or liability. So at this point, I'm not saying who's liable here. All I'm saying is when I look back and I look at all of this stuff here, this does not look good. None of this stuff looks good at all. And beyond that, I want to bring up the topic of censorship versus free speech, because this is something that's been coming up a lot lately. And I want to make my position even more clear and kind of articulate this, because while some people may say this type of content needs to be censored or removed completely, I think there is a balance with moderation to protect free speech. And there's a difference, right? So censorship is usually broadly banning content or creators that go against established norms. It's saying, hey, we're going to censor anything that involves anything that would be embarrassing.
I think content that comes at the safety, well-being of others should not be allowed on any platform. If you are putting people's lives in danger, if you are hurting people in unconsensual terms, like for example, like boxing is one form of harm, or UFC is a version of harm that people sign up for. It's an agreed upon sport. But I don't even think this content should be permissible, even if the guy agreed to do it. It's so fucked up. It's so unsafe. Like he's ingesting toxic substances into his body.
Right. Well, if you censor anything that's embarrassing, that's a lot of content, right? That could be almost everything, right? In terms of content. However, it's censorship isn't just that. Censorship is saying, hey, there's only certain news outlets, and these are the ones we like, and we're only going to let information come through them. It's got almost no transparency. You don't know what's going on. You don't know what the censors are using to, rule one way or another. It's kind of Big Brother out there censoring one thing or another based on a whim or based on a trend or whatever else. It's inflexible because really the only solution is
Yeah, so is alcohol. People do it all the time. Brother, I think there's a big difference between drinking alcohol and consuming paint. I don't know how the fuck you're drawing that parallel.
cannot do this. It's not you can do this in one way. It's no, you cannot do this. We're just censoring it. You can't have this type of content. And I think censorship is indeed a massive threat to free speech. And I think there's many historical instances where we can see that this is a clear threat and it's a problem. It's caused a problem. In the societies where they have had mass censorship, it has indeed long-term caused problems. And ultimately, people end up accessing that information or content one way or another, whether that's through the black market, the gray market, et cetera. They're going to get that information somehow, some way. So I'm not a big fan of censorship. However, moderation, I think in an ideal world, once again, ideal because
yeah, I think blanket censorship is usually a bad idea. Just better moderation will always help. Like with how much attention this was getting a direct tweet out from the staff, they clearly knew it was going on, right? So a case-by-case scenario is always better than a universal blanket. This should have been very easy to take care of. I mean, if I'm live for 3 minutes and I have KCCP enabled on my Kick stream, which is double ad revenue, double partner revenue. Kick moderation chat or kick moderation will be on in my chat within 3 minutes, right? But this is a thing that went on for 10 days that they promoted, so it's not like they didn't know this was happening. You know what I mean? So this should have been a very easy case of a quick ban. And I'm going to say something that people are going to find disrespectful. Even though the guy died, I think he's also retarded for even trying this on stream. Like, I'm just being so dead ass. I think he's so fucking stupid for doing this shit on his stream because it had to have been his idea. I mean, dude, this shit is so dumb. It is genuinely so dumb.
Moderation can cross the line to censorship. I think addressing specific content or creators that cross very specific boundaries within a specific community. Once again, how specific is that? It's laser focused. It's saying, okay, we have this very specific problem. How do we address this very specific problem?
Hold up. You see they were banned. Kick banned streamers involved in the Jean Parmenot broadcast as France vows justice. This is great. Absolutely. I'm glad everybody who partook in that got banned. Thank God. That is at least something. But obviously, stopping this broadcast while it was happening would have been way better.
In the most minimally obtrusive way. And that's consistent with U.S. law and a lot of other legal principles. We want to intrude as little as possible. Do as little as possible.
It's too late, obviously, but at least it'll deter people from trying this in the future and seeing that there's repercussions.
To regulate.
Hopefully TikTok also banned him. I think the guy should get jail time as well.
This.
I do.
True minimum.
I think those guys should get jail time.
I think that is in line with moderation. I think it's
Absolutely.
adaptable to each platform and context. And I think that's...
In case there was any type of coercion to forcing this guy to do this type of content, jail time immediately. I think 5 years minimum, maybe even 20.
Completely compliant with the principles of free speech and has limited impact on free speech. And ultimately, in ideal moderation, it's transparent. You're telling people, hey, this is why you're banned. This is what the lines are. This is what the boundaries are. And you're communicating that openly. You're not trying to hide the ball. You're not trying to pretend that it's one thing and it's another. No, you're ideally telling people why they are moderated and why they are banned. And you can have a flexible method, both in how you go out and communicate the guidelines. You can say, okay, here's the guidelines. You have, 30 days to comply or 15 days to comply or whatever.
Too much mental stress and physical stress on an old man with all that stuff going on. Okay, guys, let's just calm down. 46 isn't that old. Okay? 46 does not make you an old man. Okay? Let's maybe 60s. You could say old man, but 46 is not that old.
You can give people warnings. You can just say, hey, look, we're not going to ban you off this platform. We're going to give you a warning. We're going to tell you what you did wrong. Hey, we're going to give you a good explanation of what you did wrong. Not just, hey, you broke the guidelines generally. I'm looking at you, YouTube. YouTube sometimes does that. Once again, YouTube's not perfect. Saying, hey, here's the specific reason you did this wrong. Please fix this in a future video. And you can say, oh, okay, I did this. Okay, I got it. Let me fix that. And by scaling back and giving that kind of flexible explanation and as minimal as possible of corrective measure, I think this can make things good. And where I want to see things go with this is to improve moderation while avoiding censorship. I think censorship is bad, but moderation can be good to set boundaries, particularly when those boundaries are illegal or when those boundaries are crossing towards illegal behavior or crossing towards behavior that is exploiting people.
The reality of this situation is just like, this is so fucked up. I'm really hoping this is a cautionary tale to people pushing boundaries for content to make money off a kick, and they learn the disasters of pursuing this shit and taking shortcuts with extreme content in order to garner finances short term. This is so bad.
Which can often be illegal. I think that is the best future policy. And certain types of content need very specific moderation to set boundaries. They do need those boundaries because otherwise what happens is groups tend to naturally polarize. It's called group polarization. They tend to become more and more and more extreme from their initial views. For example, viewers become bored and they want you to do more and more and more. And we're talking about something like humiliation content. People are going to say, hey, let's do this thing. Let's do this thing. Let's waterboard the guy. Okay, let's do this. Let's, hit the guy. Let's punch the guy. Let's drown the guy, whatever. They're going to go further and further until it is extremely risky and unfortunately until bad things happen. And I'm not saying that happened necessarily in the case of Jean, but it's something that may be indicating a broader trend, which Jean can be swept up in.
Absolutely.
Even if this thing turns out to not have criminality or even liability, it certainly is pointing in a direction of, okay, what is going to be acceptable, what is going to be not acceptable. And we need to look at this as a road we're traveling down, and we can make slight corrections to the path, right? We can correct this properly and we can end up in the right place. So what I can say here is we want this to be more like, and I just watched the Mr. Beast episode where he puts two people in jail.
Great video.
Right? Free to leave anytime. There's a prize. Yes, they got challenges. They're mostly positive challenges, not hurtful, right? This is clearly okay. We're clearly okay with this type of content. This is not something that's going to offend people's mores or values, etc. Okay, they're voluntary. They can walk out anytime. They're not physically beaten. They're not, starved to the point where they're going to die, right? Okay, this is okay. We're clearly okay with this. But we're not okay with Squid Games. And we don't want Squid Games. And what we may see if we keep pushing this is content looking more and more like Squid Games. And no matter what the platform is, whether it was Kick or YouTube, Twitch, whatever, all platforms can be susceptible to leaning down a pipeline and going too far. And I think in this case with Jean, we need to take a time not just to respect him and as who he was as a person, but also to reflect on where we're going as a streaming community and as a society with this type of content. I want to know what you guys think in the comments below. Let me know what you think. Have you heard of this case before? What are your thoughts? I will catch you.
Yeah, I think Kick should have stepped in much earlier. I think there's a massive L for Kick when they were doing very good for a very long time. I'm hoping this will get them back on the right track for not letting this type of extreme content on their platform. Even though they want to be seen as the Wild West of streams, this type of content should never be permissible on any platform whatsoever. Really just lock in. I'm glad everybody involved was permanently banned. That way nobody will follow in the footsteps knowing there will be repercussions for their actions. Obviously, they were aware that this was happening, and they promoted it rather than banning it, which is crazy to me. There's still a lot of details I don't know. Maybe they promoted it at a different time when he wasn't getting, beaten up or some shit. But this shit is definitely very, very, very yucky. But what do you guys think? Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell for all notifications. Bye-bye.